Good morning. My name is Dr. Letitia Bates, and I am so excited to welcome you all again to the seventh annual TCP Symposium, the Art and Science of Socially Just Community Partnered Research. We have designed this day to be both enlightening and engaging as we talk about doing important community based research, thinking about all the things that make this research matter and be conducted well. Today, for this panel, we have all of the TCP leadership team here to really talk about the importance of the Cincinnati Project, where we see ourselves fitting in this landscape of community partner research, and what the Cincinnati Project in particular brings to this space. Again, I am Dr. Letitia Bates. I am the Associate Dean for Inclusive Excellence and Community Partnership and a longtime TCP member and affiliate and leadership team member. I'll let the rest of our leadership team introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tia Shree Gaynor. I am an assistant professor of political science. I'm also co-director of the Cincinnati Project and director of the newly launched Center for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Shaunak Shastri. I'm an associate professor of communication. I'm the co-director with Dr. Gaynor of TCP, and I've been a member since its inception.
Hi, I'm Kim Conger. I am an assistant professor in political science, and I teach in our Master's in Public Administration focused on social justice. And I have worked with TCP over the last couple of years.
I'm Leila Rodriguez. I am associate professor in the anthropology department. I have been involved with TCP since its beginnings, but I only recently joined the leadership team.
Hello, my name is Roderick Pearson. I'm a second-year doctoral student in the sociology program, and I am TCP's proud our graduate assistant. Excuse me.
So let's kick this session off diving right in. Dr. Sastry, I'd like to start with you. Can you talk to our audience about the core values that we at TCP have when we are engaging with communities and conducting community partnered research?
Thanks. Thanks for the question, Letitia. This is something that we have been very conscious and aware of, and been very purposive in thinking about what are our values as we embark on this effort to connect community organizations with academic expertise. So for those of you who may not be aware, community-based research is becoming more and more mainstream in academic spaces. So as increasingly the value of community-based research is recognized, simultaneously there is also less certainty about what community-based research means, what are the ethics of doing research that benefits communities, and what are the values that should accompany it. At the Cincinnati Project, we've been very clear from the outset that the primary driver of our engagement with community partners is what is the direct measurable benefit to the communities themselves. One of the challenges and one of the debates about community-based research is how much does it benefit the researcher versus how much it benefits the community. And this is something that we have not just at TCP, but there has been discussion around the globe about what this looks like and how we decide that. So one of the core values of TCP and the way we differentiate ourselves from, say, other community-based experiential experiences offered on campuses, like service learning, for example, is that our work is research-based. It has a direct benefit to the community. It is based on a shared partnership model in the sense that we arrive at problems and what exactly we are going to study is articulated by community members primarily. And then the back translation of that into a research problem, that's where the TCP sort of starts doing its work. So our work really is taking community problems articulated in the expertise of the community, and then back translating it into academic problems rather than starting from the academic is, right? So that's one, the idea of where we begin the process of research. The second is this culture of accountability. And the reason why we are a consensus-led leadership team, we are a horizontal organization, we make decisions as a group, is precisely to ensure that when it comes to relationships between the community and the academic partner, that there is always a group that kind of oversees that in a sense, in ensuring that the relationship is one of equality and equal accountability. And that's so really important to who we are as an entity. The third value that I want to stress upon is I'm going to call it recognition, but it's really sort of being aware of the historical space that we are in. Cincinnati and its historical legacies of how it has exploited and bodies that are marginalized, especially racial and ethnic minorities, and their relationship to the University of Cincinnati is one that is fractured. You know, I was in the field a couple of years ago, and a participant in a research study told us that faculty from University of Cincinnati have been coming into the field and telling us that they are going to solve our problems, not since I was a child, but since my parents were children. And so we've seen UC folks in the community. And so there is, I think what is different about TCP is that we recognize the historical fractures between the university community and the larger community outside it. And our work begins by an admission of this historical friction. So I would say those three are the core values.
And if I could just lift a few things up that Shaunak articulated, you know, in thinking about, you know, taking a community problem and translating it into an academic problem. One thing that I really want to stress is that we don't go to community organizations and say, we want to conduct research, what's happening in your space, right? Organizations, community members come to us and they articulate the things that they've identified as problems. And I want to lift that up because traditional researchers and the traditional research process has created a practice where there is this hierarchical perspective that relates to expertise, right? And so the academic researcher has expertise that they are so gracious enough to impart upon the community, right? We don't take that approach. We recognize that we are all experts in our own way, right? But we also recognize that the organizations and the members of the communities in which we work with are experts too, right? They live in those communities. They know what the challenges are. They know these things way better than we could ever imagine. And so really wanting to kind of elevate the piece that organizations come to us, they articulate what their needs are in their own way and how we can help them address those needs. And I think that's very different from the way that traditional research is done. So really wanting to articulate that. And also really wanting to hold up kind of our awareness of history and our awareness of the fact that the university has not always been a good neighbor to community members. And so, you know, our predecessors, my predecessors, and the folks that created TCP have worked really, really hard. And we work really hard to maintain the trust of the community members. And to Shaunak's point, one of the ways in which we do that is acknowledging that role and acknowledging the inequities and the disparities that have happened at the hands of the university. And through that acknowledgement, approaching the work in the way that we recognize that there's expertise in the community, and that what we want to do is we want to leverage the resources that we have access to help address the issues that organizations and community members bring to us, right? And so really wanting to shine a light on those 2 points.
you guys raised some really important issues. And really, as we talk about how to do this work, thinking about the theme of our conference or our symposium for today, right? Like the arts and science of socially just work. I think you sort of set me up perfectly for the next question, which I will give to Dr. Rodriguez. Can you talk a little bit about, from this socially just perspective, from the TCP lens, what are some important aspects to consider when conducting this community partner research, these partnerships, but also too, what are some of the biggest things that we should be avoiding as we are engaging in these relationships with communities in doing this work?
Absolutely. So I think, first of all, that communication is key, right? And communication at every stage. In my experience, it's very important that everybody who is involved goes in there with clear expectations about, as Tia said, what is the expertise that everybody is contributing to this partnership, this joint project, expectations about the roles that everybody is going to play, responsibility, expectations about the frequency of checking in with each other, communicating with each other, and whether that's going to be an email or done in person. Um, Expectations about who owns the data, who can use the data for what purpose, how and when the project will end, et cetera, right? To really think through um, the process from beginning to end and sort of leave no page unturned, right? I also think that it's important to have honest conversations about previous experiences in work that happened in these sorts of partnered ways, and to have a frank conversation about what worked, what didn't go so well, because, of course, like everything else, this is a learning experience, and you get better at it the more that you do this kind of work. You definitely don't want to get or try to get an organization involved too late in the process, right? As we said, one of our core values is that this is something that begins with them. And so certainly not trying to force something in them and just sort of expect the organization to follow along, right? I think this is certainly a pitfall to avoid. I think it's important to take time to build relationships, right, amongst everybody, to establish trust, to make sure that everybody who needs to be at the table is at the table. And so you don't want to rush into a project, right? I think it's very important that all these things are hashed out at the beginning. I think that, like I said, it builds trust, but it also just helps everything go more smoothly after that. And in general, I think it's important just to remember that nonprofits and public institutions and academic or research organizations are very different entities, right? And so they have different reasons for existing. They may answer to different stakeholders. We have different methods, processes, ways of working. We might be organized differently internally. We have perhaps different expectations about how long, quote unquote, a project or something can take, right? And I think, at the end of the day, these are cultural differences, right? And so I think it's very important to take the time to learn, right, where everybody is coming from, and then making sure that you're bridging these cultural gaps at the beginning, but also continually throughout the project.
Yeah. I think these are sort of really important things to think about as we enter into these relationships, and thinking about sort of the importance of entities like TCP, but specifically TCP, that are sort of the trailblazers, if you will, in forging these kind of honest, transparent, mutually beneficial partnerships that benefit the community partners in a way that the community partners feel the impact of the benefit and are able to sort of carry on, if you will, well after TCP. Sort of, I think we sort of see ourselves as, if we can get fewer of those stories that Shaunak told earlier, then TCP has sort of done its job, and we want to continue to be vigilant and diligent in that. And so I think my last question I'll throw to Kim, and especially sort of thinking about the city of Cincinnati and its history, as Shaunak and Tia both laid out, and sort of the ways in which researchers historically, thinking about what both Layla and Tia said earlier, have approached research and the nuanced way that TCP has gone about it. I wonder, Kim, if you can talk a little bit about how we at TCP see and sort of design ourselves around continuing to build community relationships with grassroots organizations in the city of Cincinnati, to both serve their research needs, but also serve sort of the broader mission of TCP in creating a more equitable Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think the great thing about this is that, I mean, success builds on success. We have a legacy of, 8 years of at least institutional action by TCP, but the early leaders even before that have been building, personal relationships, and that's true for the leadership team, for the people who have had our fellowships, for our affiliate faculty. Many of the projects that we end up doing come from those personal relationships that researchers and people who are part of TCP already have with community organizations. I think that's a really important piece of this. It speaks to the idea of, two cultures sort of meeting each other, right? Like the people who are part of TCP have a fundamental commitment to seeing these community organizations succeed and to do the things that they need to do, so that our job is not to, reinvent the wheel or come up with new exciting, ways to help Cincinnati. Our job is to connect good research to people who are already doing those things, right? To empower them to do that even better. So I think that in terms of increasing our ability is in some ways is about increasing our visibility in terms of sort of being a sort of recognized resource for this kind of for these kinds of projects throughout the city of Cincinnati. We are working to increase and institutionalize our capacity to serve those organizations in a variety of ways, but we have more. There's more demand than we can meet, and that's an awesome thing. But it also means that we have a responsibility to expand our operations and expand our ability to partner with these organizations. So in addition to that, we're also looking forward to try to figure out how we can instigate training to expand this model of community partnered research beyond just either just TCP or beyond just University of Cincinnati, and to sort of help to build a foundation of this kind of partnered focus and in a way that's not intended to, have researchers come in and tell people what they need or how to fix their problems, but one that are really focused on the challenges and the needs articulated by our community partners and community organizations around Cincinnati.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kim. I think sort of our intention for this particular session of the symposium was to give our community partners, both past, present, and future, a look and sort of look into the minds of TCP leadership. If you are interested in engaging with TCP, interested in sort of understanding more about us, we hope that this particular session as part of our 7th annual symposium answers some of those questions for you and gives you sort of a baseline of how we are thinking about engaging in this work and how we value the work that we're doing. And I can't speak for all of my other colleagues here, but I feel pretty comfortable saying we all feel pretty lucky to be able to be a part of this team and to be engaging in this work and serving the greater Cincinnati community in the way that we have for, as Kim pointed out, at least 8 years and sort of into forever, we hope. We thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us. We hope that you all will engage with the keynote speaker that will be coming up here in just a moment. If you've attended any of our sessions today, we encourage you to fill out our survey at the end of the conference to sort of tell us how we did in this new virtual space. And we hope to continue to engage with you all in person, hopefully, at our 8th annual symposium. Thank you guys so much for joining us.